couple new things today. I'm trying out a new camera. I hope it is recording. I hope the audio works. Wanted to get a different camera, something this one actually autofocuses. Apparently, it's brand new. So hopefully it's working right now. We'll see. Let me know what you guys think about the new camera, if it helps, if it's any better than the old one. It is a Sony ZV-F1. I was trying to keep it pretty cheap, but if you guys have any, got a lot of dog hair. So much dog hair. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know on cameras for this kind of content. Otherwise, let's try to get started. Stop it. The other new piece of information is the truck behind me. This video is going to be on a 1987 Toyota 4Runner. I've had a couple Toyota 4Runners in the past. This is my third 87. For some reason, I've only ever had 87 Toyota 4Runners. Oh, I've had one. I think it was a 91 or 1990, the second gen. But I don't think I ever made any videos on that. In any way, I got this 87. I'm pretty stoked about it. Got a pretty good deal on it. I'm excited. I love first gen 4Runners, so I got another project. We're gonna do this bad boy. It's pretty good. It's pretty straight. There's a few rust holes, but nothing major. We'll do paint and body on it. We gotta get it running and driving first. I did pick it up. I didn't drive it home, but I was able to drive it up onto the trailer. I was. So I'll give you a walk around first on this guy, and then I'll let you know what's wrong with it, what we gotta do, and what the game plan is. So let's get into it. All right. It's 1987. It's, I think 88 was the first year of the 3.0 6-cylinder. This one's a 22 RE. I like that motor. Show y'all the goods real quick. Classic 22 RE. Nothing is supposed to be missing. It is partially disassembled, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But down the side of it, it's pretty darn straight. I don't see a ton of issues with it as far as bodywork dents that I'm gonna have to deal with. I'll keep making our way down the side. Nice, she looks good from the back. They always do. It's got these little tube bumpers, and I do have the front one sitting right there. That came with it. That'll be part of the story in just a second. Headliner's falling down. Those are the rest of the parts for the disassembly that's going on in the front. And here's the other side from the back. It looks like we do have a bit of a dent here and some, yeah, a couple dents, something. Here's the rust hole. This is really the only rust on the truck, right under the gas tank. I should be able to patch that. I'm not too worried. It's not amazing on that fender, but everything else looks pretty darn smooth to me. So I'll show you the interior in just a second. It's the SR5 package, so it's got as much interior as Toyota ever put on anything. But it did come with a spare transmission, so I bought it pretty cheap. It did not really run and drive, mechanic special, you know, that deal. It's got a nasty oil leak from the front that I saw when I brought oil to drive it onto the trailer. It's a terrible oil leak, and the transmission is done. It does have receipts for a new long block, a new 22 RE that was put in about 20,000 miles ago, so that's great. But the transmission is no good. Odometer's got 190,000 on it. Long block's got about 20, like I was saying, but this transmission came with it. It's used, clearly. There's dirt in and around it. Look down in there, I believe, get out of here, butter, stop it. There's a bunch of dirt in there, so I gotta clean all that out. I'm gonna do my best without splitting the case and getting in there just to clean it out. Couple flushes. So we can jump back to the front. And the deal with this guy, so the transmission's no good. The engine, I brought a battery. I gotta hold the hood up. I brought a battery and I brought a bunch of oil and it did start up. I had to switch a fuse that was blown, and I don't know if this is factory or not. There's one chilling in here at 20 amp. But the biggest issue is right down in there. A lot of the disassembly's been done, but right in between the block and the front cover, I think that's like timing chain, water pump cover, somewhere in that ballpark, it was squirting out about the size of a pencil of oil. Every time you turn it on, it gushes out a big stream from in between the block and this cover this way. It shoots a ton of it out. So, and there's a little bit of goop around there, down by where that ground goes. That's a ground. There's some goop. It almost looks like JB Weld to me. I asked the previous owner if the block was cracked and that JB welded it or something like that. They didn't seem to know anything about it. We'll see once we get into it, and I will get you guys some better footage of what I'm talking about down in there. But and I'll get better lights on this once I get in there. But that's a big issue. I got to fix that oil leak. Otherwise, when I shoot, also it doesn't, the fuel pump's not working. It's not coming on. I'm going to troubleshoot that in just a second. But when I put starter fluid down the neck, it fires up and runs for a second. And the engine sounds great. The transmission doesn't stay in first or third gear. None of the upper gears on the shifter stay in, but everything down low, second, fourth, those were staying in and holding. So hopefully that spare transmission I got is good. And what we're gonna do now is try to get this thing running and driving. All right, so you guys just saw the walk around on it. Now, the first thing I'm gonna do is try to figure out the fuel pump. There might be a wiring issue. I'm not positive. That's the first thing I'm gonna dive into. I'll deal with the oil leak second. We'll see if that comes back to bite me. I'm still not 100% certain that the engine is good. There's a receipt for a long block 20,000 miles ago, almost 15 years ago at this point. It sat for a while. I don't know anything about it, if the long block was new, remanufactured, what. We'll see if that is a problem, but I want to try to figure out the oil leak for the fuel pump issue first. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to figure out if there's power going to the fuel pump when I turn the ignition on. And we'll see if I've got power to it. If not, I'll jump the fuel pump and see if the fuel pump is any good. I suspect it's not. Okay, I'm in the back seat area. If I recall correctly, you can access the fuel pump from this little area right here under the passenger side rear seat. I had an 87 that needed a fuel pump actually as well. I think I can access it from here. Really all I'm after is the wiring to tell if the plug is getting 12 volts. So I'm going to zip these guys off and see what's under here. I'm trying to show you what's going on here. So the first thing I did, well, that's a good point actually. I did jumper the terminals, the fuel pump and the B+, the battery in the diagnostic port. And I do have power with ignition on to my plug. From the factory harness, I do have 12 volts coming that way. So the next thing I tried to do was just jumper with a battery straight to the fuel pump, and I'm not getting anything. And I do have 12.6 volts on the battery. I don't know that I can show you, but basically got my negative, got my positive. It's a Chevy style battery. I've got the positive and the negative still actually, yeah, they're still hooked up to the fuel pump and nothing's coming on. And I did stick the terminals down, or my leads and my multimeter down in here, just to verify that I do in fact have 12 volts. probably gonna arc this thing out. You see it okay, you see it on the multimeter? 12 point something volts. I'm getting voltage to this plug to the fuel pump, but nothing's kicking on. So, as suspected, the fuel pump is likely dead. I'm gonna grab a new one of those, throw it in, and then I'll get back to testing it. And when I have this out, I'm gonna check it out, suck out the tank, most likely clean it out, and get everything nice and fresh. Our fuel pump is no good for a couple of reasons. As you're starting to see, I'll start to get this thing out. It's very fragile. All right, the strainer sock down here has completely disintegrated. That's no good anymore. The pump, both wires fell off of the terminals. So I'm gonna jump the pump right now just to see if it still works. Curious, but otherwise these wires don't actually lead to the pump, so it's not gonna, me jumping up here wouldn't have done anything. It's very rusty, so I'm gonna try to, take this off. The new housing, I could not get it at the parts store. They all wanted a ton of money for it. 250 bucks, and it just wasn't available. It was special order, and a lot of them couldn't get it. So I went with just the pump and a new sock, and I'm gonna try to reuse this guy. I'm gonna clean it up as best I can and hope that there are no holes in it. Then I will redo my wiring for my new pump. Now, also, the tank is no good, unfortunately. Here's the tank. Try to get a better shot, but it's very rusty in there. You can kind of see it now. I was hoping to be able to just, siphon out the old fuel. Fuel doesn't even really smell that bad. I was hoping to be able to just siphon it out and then reach down in there and clean it up a bit, but there's a ton of big flaky rust, so I think I'm gonna drop the tank and clean it out with my patented front yard gravel tank cleaning method. I've never dropped one of these tanks before, but first step is going to be the skid plate. Looks like 12s all around. Oh. Okay, those go there. And I just have, I've got most of this side taken off already. Genius. So now I get to do that again, but this time a bunch of gasoline falling down. Those are all the same. They're 12 millimeter bolts. I feel like everything on this Toyota is 12 millimeter. I think the gas tank is just held up by 3 12s on each side, little retaining plates, I think. You know what, I'm gonna get my transmission jack maybe, instead of dumping this everywhere. And it's game time. Spill a bunch of gas everywhere. Oh my god. No. It is stuck. Alright. I think we've got to move it towards the rear because it's hung up on the front. Huh. Okay, tank is out. Didn't spill any yet. I just ended up having to readjust this. It was balanced. And then I could pick up the car enough to just yank this, and I picked it up off the top of the transmission jack. That was the move. Now, clean it out. Got this thing all cleaned out. Well, as clean as I'm gonna get it. I did my best, you know. Still some rust stuff in there, but there's no, yeah, come on, focus. There's no big chunks in there anymore. So we're gonna call that good to go. This is real easy to get to, so I can always replace the sock if that pickup gets clogged, or I can drop the tank if it clogs up completely and I feel I need a new tank. But we're gonna pop this baby back in there and we'll move on to the rest of what's wrong with this truck. Hey, I'm gonna clean up the fuel. I'm gonna be careful. The fuel sending unit that tells you how much fuel you have. There's a bunch of flaky stuff on here, but I don't want to damage any of the wires. I want to get the rheostat cleaned up a little bit, but I'm not going to actually break. I don't know if this is aluminum, and the rust is just kind of like stuck to it. It doesn't even seem that it's rusty underneath it. I'm not going to open this thing up to clean off all the little, I guess, what are those? The windings, the deal, that I think it's the rheostat, what it's called. Yeah, all this rust is just like stuck to it. It's not actually, this has got to be galvanized or aluminum. Ugh. Got a weird smell, weirder taste. Alright. Well, if it worked before, it doesn't now. If it didn't work before, it does now. Cleaned a bunch of stuff off. No. Forgot to put the gasket back on that I'm reusing. Genius. This might actually only, yeah, I think this is only gonna bolt up one way. Interesting, the holes will not line up unless you have it the correct way, so Toyota must have designed it like that. That's looking pretty promising. Here's the sending unit. Oh, I realized I didn't tighten up my hose clamps yet, so I'm probably gonna shut the camera off and do that. I redid a new ground on the back because I didn't trust this old one. It was very crusty and wiggly. So I just cleaned that up, drilled a new hole. Put my power here. I'm actually gonna zip tie this. So let me clean this guy up a little bit more, but otherwise the fuel pump is, I don't know, rebuilt, ready to drop in. I opted not to put the fuel pump in from down below because I gotta be up there to hook up certain stuff anyways, and exhaust is rotted off. And what the heck? I don't remember, but I didn't do it. Okay. I believe I left everything on the ground exactly how this should go. think we've got that held up. I'm gonna go hook up the tubes upstairs, all the gas lines, and then I'll make sure that everything fits. Yes, I almost did forget the screen on the pump, but I got it on there and now I'm gonna go drop it in.